My name is Janelle Ketcher. I am the founder of Postal Service for the Dead, which is a project I started in 2022. Outside of that project, I work in the library and information science field. I'm an artist. I live in Los Angeles now. So yeah, that's just a little intro to me.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm excited to talk to you. I definitely, of course, want to talk about Postal Service for the Dead. We'll get into all of that, but there are a few questions that I like to ask everybody when we start the podcast. So I'm curious about your relationship with death. Do you feel like you have a relationship with death? Is it something you think about it a lot? Do you worry about it? What do you feel like your relationship with death is like right now?
Oof, right now in this moment, yeah, I think by virtue of the project, I think about death a lot. I'm encountering people's experiences with death and grieving a lot through the project. Also, the project and my past experiences that led me to starting Postal Service for the Dead put me kind of in spaces where I was with people and like experiencing end of life, maybe. I don't know how much the average is that people experience it, but yeah, I think about death a lot. Sometimes I think in a healthy way, like I'm curious about it. I'm interested in like how being with death can help us be more present in our daily life. And then I think sometimes it does like creep into anxiety sometimes, or my sisters will make fun of me. It's like, oh, Janelle thinks we're dead if we don't respond within like X amount of hours.
Yeah.
And that's only partially true. I think they've kind of hyped it up a bit, but it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, the people I really love in my life, I think I worry about them, and like my automatic response sometimes is like, oh, they're dead,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
more factual than anxious, if that makes sense.
I think a lot of people, if they're not getting a text back or if someone doesn't answer the phone or return a phone call, your mind kind of wanders there. I think most people a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think about it. In difference of or like the difference of like our generations or just time or
Yeah.
people's different relationship with technology. I'm like, my dad probably didn't think that way when he was growing up because he only talked to his
Yeah.
parents a handful of time. Just the accessibility of the technology made it so that you weren't in communication as much if you lived a long distance from people. So yeah, that's kind
Yeah.
of a tangent, but like how technology and maybe access has shifted our relationship to thinking about worst case scenario.
The ability to be so much more connected has caused us to worry that much more when we can't make the connection right away.
Perhaps, yeah.
My mom is like even the opposite of that sometimes. Like if I call her, she'll answer the phone and be like, "What's wrong?" And you're like, the fact that I'm calling her means that like I don't know, I'm kidnapped or something, and that or I'm whatever it is. So
Yeah, that's always my like if someone calls me and I have like time to pick it up, but I don't have time to talk,
yeah,
my first thing I usually say is like, "Hi, I can't talk long. Are you okay?"
yeah,
So
just to get
just
that out of the way.
just to clear out, like if I need to be in crisis mode, I can shift to that. But if not, we'll
Yeah.
talk later.
I think that's a fair way to respond. And it's so courteous because it's like you could just not answer or you could just say, "Hey, I can't talk," and then that's just the end of it.
Yeah.
But you at
I mean,
least
God
have the
forbid
thought.
someone call me when they're literally about to die, and that's the last chance I get to talk with.
Sure. Yeah. Or yeah.
So I guess, yeah, I do think about death a lot. Is
That's okay.
well, coming
That's
around to.
fair enough. I get it. I'm very similar in that way. I don't know if I necessarily think people are dead if they don't answer, but yet your mind at least always just goes to like, oh well, something happened. But This is another question that I've been asking people recently, and I haven't been able to get a lot of answers from it. And it's okay if you don't have an answer to this
Okay.
question, but I haven't given up on it yet, and I don't know when I'm going to give up on it. But I'm curious if you have a memory, or if you could just remember the moment you realized that you were going to die one day. I have like a very specific memory of like when it sort of clicked in my mind, and I feel like I just don't meet that many people that have a similar experience. I think we all realize at one point or another it sort of does click, but I don't know if it sticks with people as much as I thought it did.
I don't think I have a memory off the top of my head, but the thought that comes to mind for me is maybe not that like, because I'm assuming I was young when I had that thought, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't in the context of like, you're going, like, that this thing could cause you to die or like you will die. And maybe more in relationship to like, you could hurt yourself. Like, maybe that's like a step towards understanding death is like that. Also, you'll ask my sisters, I'm notoriously like a very like risk adverse person. So I'm sure like I'm trying to go back in my memory bank of like when did I become that person that is like really
Oh, that's interesting.
like very
Yeah.
fearful to hurt like I'm scared of hurting my body
Yeah.
of like I don't like going too fast on things. I don't like being physically like out of control. So for me that feels like a connection to understanding death, but no, I don't or like oh death awareness, but I don't have that specific moment.
You assume that it was young. Do you feel like is there like an appropriate age that you're supposed to that you think people should like that it should click that they're gonna die one day?
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a good question because I'm really like I feel like I don't know, maybe I've just known I think I've known from a very early age that it's like it's not forever.
Yeah.
But I don't know when you are we just born knowing that?
I don't think so.
I am remembering not a specific moment, but like a very core part of like who I am is the fact that my mom, who the longer story is that she died in 2019.
Mhm.
Before she died, and she had frontal temporal dementia, and we think the dementia was probably a side effect of having had a traumatic brain injury when she was like in her late 20s. And she had a traumatic brain injury from an accident and then had me and my sisters. So, and I feel like I've always just known, even like my youngest memories, that that was an experience of my mom where she had this accident. Part of her frontal temporal was damaged and she was in a coma for a month.
Wow.
So I've always like, I don't know. Yeah, I think I've always just known that that's a possibility that like it was a possibility that she could not have, recovered.
Yeah.
Flash forward to when I was in high school, my mom finally got a diagnosis of frontal temporal dementia, and that kind of started about like a 10-year journey of me and my sisters being her caregiver.
Mhm.
Um, most my middle sister, she really bore most of the responsibilities for that, but even being like a secondhand caregiver or whatever you want to call it, like I was like, oh, Sarah's calling me. What's the news with mom? You
Yeah.
kind of like, and you make that association. And it's funny, I've talked to Sarah about this, and I think she'd be okay with me sharing this, is like she she like hates picking up the phone and like is slow to respond to stuff because she had so many years of healthcare providers calling her to give her the update on what was going on with our mom,
Yeah.
you know? So not that I like love picking up the phone, but like my response is kind of like, oh, I'm gonna like pick it up because someone might need my help.
Sure.
Versus Sarah had the experience of like, shit, I'm getting bad news probably again. And it's funny, it's like I don't know, I honestly haven't thought about it much, but it's like, because I was pretty young. I was in high school and college when this was happening, and it just like was kind of my normal,
Yeah.
and now that I'm older, I'm like, oh yeah, like maybe I do have a kind of weird, or not weird, but I have a unique relationship to like connecting with my loved ones and communicating with them, and what's all that rooted in.
I mean, I'm nowhere near any sort of like doctor or psychologist, but yeah, I would assume, right, that it's going to have an effect on you.
Yeah.
You
Of
know,
course.
that's that's fair to say. Well, all right. So not an exact memory, but I think we got somewhere with that
Yeah,
question.
you got something with it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give up on the question quite yet.
Okay. I appreciate that. I'm going to keep it around for a little longer. It honestly just seems to spark some sort of conversation. So I think in that sense, it's a good question to keep around for a little bit longer. But I'm just
Yeah.
so curious. I got to find somebody who's had, I guess at this point, I'm just searching for somebody to have like the same experience I did. And maybe that's a bad way of looking at it because that might not exist. But I don't know. We'll find out.
Maybe someday.
I've only asked like five people, by the way. So it's like, it's not like I've been doing this forever. There's time. We'll give it a chance. All right. So I do want to talk about Postal Service for the Dead. I think we could start with obviously the beginning. Where did the idea come from? You know, how did all this start?
Yeah. So my mom, Mary Susan Sineni, who I mentioned, she died in 2019. And then flash forward to around this time, actually, in November of 2022, I woke up a few weeks before her birthday, which is November 30th. I woke up and I was just like, damn it, I wish I could send her a birthday card.
Hmm.
And in that moment, and this sounds like, I mean, take this however you want, but in that moment, it was like the idea was pretty conceptualized, like, and it very much felt like it was like gifted to me in a way. Where
Yeah.
it was like, here, like, if you want this, run with this. So I looked to see if there was anything similar. At the time, I couldn't find anything. I've since found some kind of similar cool projects, which is great to see.
Yeah.
And I think just to give context to like how it started as well, like my background is in the arts, specifically social practice, community engagement. I had been doing some grief work with with the dinner party, which is a peer support organization for 20 to 40-year-olds. I'd done training with going with Grace, which is an end of life doula training. I'd done some volunteer work for the Alzheimer's Association for a long time. And then I was just getting started on my master's in library and information science, which provides this like archive component to the project. So yeah, it was this, grief, art, archiving, and yeah, then it was born.
Okay, so it seems like this wasn't like the beginning of you exploring like the death world at all. It seems like this is something that had been a part of your life way before starting Postal Service for the Dead.
Yeah, I think because I was already interested, I was really like, while my mom was living and a little bit after she died, I was pretty invested as like a volunteer for the Alzheimer's Association. So I was very interested in supporting people with dementia and like trying to like break stigmas around that and have conversations after my, so of course, like you're in the end of life space with that, right?
Yeah.
And then after my mom's death, that's when I started to, just for my own mental health, start to get into grief work. And then that kind of led me into, I was like, oh, maybe there's something here I'm want to learn more about. So that took me to the end of life doula training. And luckily for me, I'm in Los Angeles and there's a really incredible like death positivity community here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like kind of this convergence of a lot of elements that I think made I'm reading right now Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Oh my gosh, she wrote Eat, Pray, Love. Elizabeth Gilbert. So Big Magic, and it is like about like how we kind of foster our creativity and how we kind of seize these moments to develop ideas. And it did feel like there was just enough elements working in my favor and like my lived experience and my like professional skills that all just came together. It was like, oh yeah, like I could do this thing. Versus sometimes we have ideas and you're like, oh, wouldn't that be crazy? Like to do this thing. And then it just kind of floats away and goes.
Yeah. I don't know. This might be a silly question, but what's like the first step of like, oh, I'm going to start having strangers write letters to like their dead relatives and friends. Like, how do you even start that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me I deem that like the nerdy logistical questions that like I love because I love
Yeah,
figuring
I,
out how things work, you
I
know?
yeah, because it's just like even as like as simple as what I'm doing, it seemed difficult to be like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to start emailing strangers and asking them to talk to me about death on the internet. And I was like,
Yeah.
is that even going to work? Like, are people going to get it? You know, obviously you had this space already, so there's some people in place. I guess that would help a little bit. But yeah, I'm so curious how you start a project like this.
The people were very like the communities I was already a part of were very important, but I'll
Yeah,
get to that. So let
yeah.
me think. So I think when I had the idea and then I sat with it for a while and I was like, you know what? Let's try it. I think I started with getting a PO box
Hmm.
because I was like, got to start with that. You need a place for,
Sure.
I'm not going to have them send them to my house.
Well,
I
that was
want
a
the,
question I had
yeah,
too. I was like, where are these going? That's the whole part of the, yeah, you know?
yeah. So we have a PO box. So I think I set up the PO box.
Yeah.
And then while I was doing that, because I think you apply and it takes like maybe a day or two for them to
Mhm.
accept it or whatever.
When you're setting that up, do you have to like look at another person and be like, yeah, I'm like,
I just did it online,
oh, okay.
but it is funny. Like now, there's like two guys at my post office that I go to. They know me
Yeah.
and they they're the ones that are putting the mail in the PO box.
That's what I'm looking for is like, yeah, there has to be.
So they see that it's like to Postal Service for the Dead.
Yeah.
I had a article in the LA Times.
Yeah.
And so like one of them picked up on it and they're like, that's what you're doing.
That's so cool.
So it's kind of sweet. It's like I know that there's people on like the inside of the
Yeah.
post that are like caring for these things as well. And they like are yeah, they're really sweet. Shout out Lincoln Heights post office. So I set up the PO box and then I feel like all this was kind of happening concurrently. I was shared the idea with like my close friends and my family. They are no stranger to me sharing like weird ideas with them.
Yeah.
But I was like, does this make sense? But like you like tell me what you think. And they were so supportive and everyone kind of gave me like suggestions. And I think it was my friend Izzy. She was like helping me figure out the privacy system or suggesting that like we should have different ways that people can engage with it. So it's not just completely like so there's some level of anonymity. So yeah, there was a crew of people kind of brainstorming with me to like get the concept in place. And then once I felt confident with that, I moved to making a logo. No, that came later. I made a website and then I made like Instagram account. I put up all the instructions on the website and made like my first post was about like how to write into Postal Service for the Dead. And it was that post that got shared then on I think it was Talk Death Daily.
Okay.
Someone picked up on it and that really like got it to a really great wide audience. And then also my other two, the dinner party and the Going with Grace, they both have like private Facebook pages for the people involved in that.
Oh,
So
cool.
I shared in those spaces and that helped connect to a lot of people who just like they're like, yeah, of course, we get grief. We get this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just kind of evolved since then.
Yeah. So there is like, these people are writing these letters. I would immediately just assume they would want them to be private, right? You're like, oh, it seemed like the whole entire act would be them writing the letter and sending the letter. But there is a version where people are reading these letters that they write. Why did you feel like it was necessary for people to also read the letters?
Yeah, so there's three options. So when people send in a letter, if you can imagine like a normal envelope, you address it, you stamp it, flip it on the back side. If it's left blank, then people can send it, but like our team will never open it and never read it. But people still get that kind of cathartic experience of sending a letter. If they mark it with a heart, then our team will read it, but we don't share it publicly. And then if they mark it with a star, then we can share it publicly, but we redact names.
Yeah.
And though that option to have the star was really inspired by Post Secret, which is a really awesome, I think it started in the early 2000s by Frank Warren, a really great project where people can send postcards with their secrets on them.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just been a huge success. And like, I've known about it. It's always been like a project I admired. And so I was like, oh, clearly people like their stories being heard. So that's where that came from. I was like, yes, I want people to have a private space because grief can be such a private experience and a very sensitive material sometimes. So I wanted that option for people to still write a letter, still send it, but like no pressure to have the contents revealed, to the heart option, which is where our team can read it. And a significant amount of people choose that, which I think people are surprised. Which like,
That's sort of what I was getting at. Is like I'm more surprised that people want it read but not shared. Like they're just
mhm,
like they obviously just want another person to read it.
mhm.
Yeah, and I'm so curious, just like the thought process of that, and not that I'm expecting you to give me that, but just as somebody, writing that type of letter and being like, you know, I still want somebody to read it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I can't read everyone's mind, but like, I'm assuming that there is this comfort in, it's especially for so many of us that maybe like don't have a clear idea of like what happens after death,
Yeah.
that like this comfort that at least like, okay, I might not know where exactly this is going in a like kind of magical sense, but at least I know it's going to this place and someone, even if I don't know them, someone's reading it. Yeah, I don't know what that does for people, but it obviously it does something because people choose to do that.
I was thinking before the interview and when I was sort of reading through this, if I sent a letter, what I would want, and I couldn't really figure out what I would want. I think
Mhm.
I gotta think about it more. I don't know.
I'm not a religious. I'm like I like truly I was raised Unitarian, which is like the most hippie of religions.
Yeah.
Um, but I wonder if it feels like similar to confessional to
Oh, that's
people,
interesting. Yeah.
where it's like you're not looking like in theory like you don't know, but like you know someone there is receiving it.
Yeah. Whatever helps, whatever works. I'm all for it.
Well, and it might be different, and I think it because we've definitely seen like repeat senders. I think people choose
Yeah.
different privacy settings according to who they wrote to and like what they
Sure.
wrote about.
Yeah. On your website, it says the power of snail mail, which I wrote in my notes like 9 times because I wanted to bring that up. What is that? What is the power of snail mail? Where does that come from? What's the power?
Well, I don't know. I guess it's like, don't you, how do you feel if someone like sends you like a nice letter in the mail?
Okay, yeah. It's a great feeling for sure. I don't remember the last time I got a letter in the mail.
Oh my gosh, everyone send him a letter right now.
I mean, you get like birthday cards but everyone just hands them to you. It's like you don't anyone that's going to send me or give me a birthday card at this point in my life, I'm going to see. Maybe I
Yeah.
need to be harder on my friends who live in other states and across the country. And they need to start mailing me birthday
Or
cards.
or you start doing it and you just start this trend.
See, yeah,
But
yeah, you're right. I should do it first.
I demand. Um, no, I think my grandma, Nancy Sineni, who is still alive at 98, which is
Ooh, good for
wild.
grandma. Yeah,
She really instilled in us like sending thank you cards and staying connected to your friends. And so I think I have a big reverence for mailing people things.
yeah,
And I think it's for me, it's a indication that it's something that takes time. It doesn't take a ton of time, but you have to write the letter, you have to address it, you have to stamp it, you have to get to your mailbox or get to the post office. And so it's like I think in our world where we're so busy and everything's so quick and convenient, like you could send an email card, whatever they're called, you know. You could send, you can't, you sure, you should send texts and say happy birthday or send
Yeah.
texts and say I'm thinking of you. But like
Yeah.
mail is so, and the physicality of it is just like, I'm such an ephemera lover and paper lover that it's just like, it just feels so like a hug, you know?
I don't know, but I get it. I get it. I mean, yeah, I can't remember the last time I got a letter.
Mm.
I'm gonna mail all my friends' birthday cards. This
Well, you send,
2026.
email me your address and I'll mail you something.
That's very nice. Snail mail. I don't know who came up with the term snail
I
mail.
don't know
But
either.
it's kind of the perfect term for mailing a letter.
And there's also this like, I'm not trying to throw shade at the US Postal Service. I love them, but like there's kind of this risk of communication in mail, you know, like
Oh yeah, it could get
it could
lost in the
not get
mail.
to the sender.
Yeah.
And I love that, like, I don't know, I love the post office as a system too.
Yeah.
Like, I think, don't quote me on this, or maybe quote me on this, but like, I think the post office is like the only like financially self-sustaining government entity.
Oh, that's
I'm pretty
interesting.
sure, or close to. Someone
Yeah.
fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure I heard that somewhere.
Okay.
Um, so just it as a system that like okay, not only can we send messages of love to people, but it's like people maybe with disabilities that can't leave their home. It's such a staple of our society to make sure that people are cared for, whether it's like getting your medications or getting your bills. It's like such a human need in our society.
Yeah.
So I think there is a part of me that just also loves.
Look, I just
I love the
voted.
romance of it, and I love the like operational, logistical, like access point of post office, of the post
Sure.
office.
Yeah. I just voted through the mail not too long ago. Great convenience in voting through the mail. Love that.
Love
Um,
that.
it is kind of wild to think about how much mail there probably is in a single day and how it all just somehow gets organized and they figure it out and it ends up in the right place. Um, it might be silly for me to take this long to say this, but my dad was a postal worker. He worked in the post office for I don't know, a very long time. Most of my childhood.
Wow. Was he
And
in a post office or was he a mailman?
he was a mail carrier, yeah. So he was out delivering the mail.
Where
And
did you grow up?
well, in Long Island,
Okay.
he delivered the mail in Long Island, and then we moved to Arizona. I'm in Arizona now. So then he moved when we moved here, he continued for a while to deliver mail in Arizona as well, which I think he somewhat enjoyed. I think he hated the summers were probably
Yeah, I
brutal.
was gonna say that sounds I feel like Long Island would be more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Even
The,
like if
the
there was cold,
the
but
winter, yeah, the winters, and I don't know. He's happily retired now for quite some time, so he did his time. But
well, my hat's off to your father. Tell him thank you.
yeah, I get sort of this like childhood feeling anytime I see a postal worker walking around just in that outfit. It's fun. And also you talk about things getting lost in the mail. He's told me some stories. I have an idea of why some stuff gets lost in the mail. But anyway, so you've created this world now where people are sending you letters, sending dead family, friends, relatives letters. They're coming to you.
Hmm.
And how many people are reading these letters? Like, what's the team at? How many people you got?
Oh, so it's me and we have almost for a year now have had an archival advisory group,
Oh,
which is three other archivists here in Los Angeles, Danielle, Isabella, and Sydney. Shout out to them.
yeah.
Funny enough, we have quite a backlog of the letters, so we haven't been able to read a ton because our first order of business as a group, again, about a year ago when we started,
Yeah.
was to develop a metadata schema for the letters in an effort to catalog them.
Hmm.
So our big dream is that we can have a digital archive that is searchable for things like you mentioned, like maybe we want to search by different relations. So look at letters that have been written to grandparents or letters that have been written to siblings.
Hmm.
In the case that people write about kind of the what we call the context of death. So maybe they mentioned that their person had cancer. So that would be like a searchable term. So people could kind of engage with these shared experiences of death and grief.
What a wonderful idea.
Thank you. Yeah, we think
Yeah,
it's a good idea. It's a lot of work and we're
I
slowly
can't
chipping away
imagine.
at it. But yes, right now there's me and three others who are kind of literally like handling, managing the letters.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, actually later this month, I'm going to have my first meeting with a more general advisory group, which includes some artists, nonprofit professionals, social workers, a mortician, and other like end of life grief adjacent nonprofit archiving people.
To sort of help with the whole process.
Yeah, to help with like we're gonna have to start raising money to hopefully like I'd love to be able to pay an archivist and like, paying for a digital archive platform is not cheap.
Yeah.
So raising money to do that, raising money to put together. We do a lot of programs, but I'd love to do like community specific programs. So like I have a dream of working with incarcerated people to get kind of this these tools and materials in the hands of those that are incarcerated to help them with their grief. As an example of like programs we'd want to build out.
I would imagine that there's probably a lot of unsettled grief with people in prison, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like I've connected with people who are like interested in hospice in prisons, which is like so necessary,
Yeah.
where they like do peer training to like help inmates support others as they're in the dying process. But yeah, I think it's very much on from what I understand about the prison system, it's very like case by case basis on what is provided in the prisons, and
Yeah.
it's very case by case, like what are the community of volunteers in the area that and like what services do they want to provide. So yeah, I'm by no means an expert. I'm curious. I want to learn more. I want to figure out
Yeah.
how we can support
Yeah.
them. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great space to look into. There's a some sort of postal service operation happening in prisons, right?
Well, yeah, so we received a letter from someone in a prison on the East Coast. I don't know how they heard about us. I don't know.
They all have everyone. They got phones. They got the internet. And
Someone,
yeah,
and I just thought like that, it was just like I was like, yeah, duh. Like this is, if we can get them envelopes, paper, stamps, pencil, whether it's like a facilitated program or not, even if we could just disseminate the information and get them those materials, then they have access to something that might help them feel more connected with those that have died while they're on the inside.
yeah. Sort of a
That's just
question.
one
Yeah,
thing. There's so many other like
yeah,
there's children, there's, the like LGBTQ plus community, like everyone has such a unique experience to death and grief that there's lots we could do.
I think it's great how people are getting more and more comfortable with like sharing personal death related stuff on the internet and creating, this like world. But it like takes a real like emotional toll on me specifically just watching a lot of this content. And I'm just curious how you and like your team sort of manage your emotions and how you sort of handle all the emotion that would come with what you're doing.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think like in terms of social media, the death content is just like any other content in which I think if you get too much of it in one way, I hear you're saying that it can just like feel too heavy.
Yeah.
And I think how I definitely have felt that. And I think something I've experienced though is like too much of it and you get like desensitized to it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it just becomes like, I feel like I'm not engaging with the depth of it sometimes. So I need to step away from it for that reason and like, just to be with myself and my own feelings and my own like lived experience is like one reason to get away from like specifically like the digital social media content, right? It can be just so consuming. With on the archiving side of things, the whole team is really invested in and curious in ethics of care. So how are we going to take care of one another as we're managing these materials? And also this idea of trauma-informed archiving, which is not unique to our archive, which is about death, but if you are an archivist working with any type of archive, you're probably going to be facing difficult material from current and past historical moments. So it's this idea that it's not just something to brush aside, like it is something to recognize that you're navigating challenging, complex, heavy, sometimes triggering material. So for us, we've started these like kind of cataloging days, and we actually have a big dream of making it like a public thing, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And we put that part of the training that it's like if you get a letter that like too deeply resonates with you to the point of discomfort, then put it back. Someone else can handle it. You don't have to do that. We encourage people to take breaks, stay hydrated, eat snacks. We kind of how we do the cataloging is like I'm usually not actively cataloging, so if people need to talk, then someone's available to talk to them. But really emphasize, and it's kind of why we have such a backlog, is like really emphasizing like slowness and taking our time with it, because it's not like our health and our safety is the priority in order to keep the project going long term. And I would say that that's kind of a priority in a lot of aspects of life, but especially with like death care and end of life care, it's like you got to take care of yourself, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a few that like have made me quite emotional, but for the most part too, like I'm just so honored to receive them each time. And it's just such and I'm sure you get this in the conversations you have with people. It's just like how special that you're like, you are like gifting me this story, or that you feel safe sharing this. And so I think that's kind of the mindset I have in reading these things as well. And everyone that works with them has a different perspective. So, but that's why we kind of have this, you have to equip people with the tools so that they feel confident that they can manage it in whatever ways works for them.
Maybe I'll start mailing out some letters this new year.
I'd love that. I have kind of not a crate. It's not that crazy, but like I know we're at time, but could I open one that I haven't read yet and read it out loud?
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay, let me one sec. I'm like just staring at them. They're like right next to me.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have them like all in order for what hasn't been processed yet. One sec. So this one we received in April of 2024. So this is kind of indication of how far back we are.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Oh gosh, this is a long one. I might not read the whole thing.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
It's really long.
You can pick a different one if you want.
Here, I'll read the first paragraph and then the last one. How about that?
Sounds good.
So, dear Papa, I think of you often, but I've been especially thinking about you these last couple of days because your sister, dear Aunt blank, redacting for privacy reasons, passed away a couple days ago. Although I only met her a handful of times, she left a big impression. She was one of those people where after spending time with them, you just feel warm and peaceful inside. I guess you have that in common with her. And then it goes on for a whole typed page and plus some.
Wow.
And the last paragraph says, I don't know why I didn't think to write to you before. I know you love cards, and I miss the ones you used to make on the computer with family pictures and cute and punny messages. I want to find your old computer or files and find those pictures again. You had so many, and I haven't seen them in a long time. I hope to write again soon. Please tell blank hi from me. Love you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really enjoyed our hour together here, and I'm excited to see how things progress, and hopefully to have you back on the podcast again.
Yeah, would love that. Thank you so much for having me.